Hey everyone, it's Kelly with Legendary Living Arts, and I have 3 tips for everybody to remember when they're doing their horse stance. So, whether or not it's with standing stake or it's with the 8 pieces of brocade, these 3 things are really important to remember when we are doing a horse stance. So, let's get started. So we all know already that with the horse stance, you want the knees facing forward and you want the feet facing forward all the time. But there's 2 things in the hip area that you want to remember. So the first is that whenever you get into a horse stance, you want to engage your transverse abdominis muscle. The way you can do that is by putting your fingers, you find your hip bones, so you find your hip bones right there, put your fingers on it, and then you very gently engage the abdominal muscles that run across this way. And you'll feel it if you engage them and nothing happens here, you don't feel anything in your fingers, then you might not be engaging them properly. So you want to put the fingers there and try to engage them, and then just you can take a deep breath in, relax everything, let everything hang out, and then put your fingers there and then tighten. And you should be able to feel it by putting your fingertips on your hip bones. Now, why that's important helps to engage all of the pelvic floor muscles and lift everything up when you're doing it. Because remember, in our classes, when we have the silver thread that runs down the spine, it connects us to the earth. That's keeping us upright. And this is another way that this can help lift us up and be in that proper posture when we have the knees bent and the feet forward and the pelvis tucked in. So you want to make sure that you're engaging that muscle across there so that you're lifting everything up. And it's a small engagement. It's not like, really squeezing your stomach muscles tightly. It's just a very gentle engagement. And I found out in the last few months that I had to really work at engaging mine because after my C-section quite a number of years ago, mine hadn't been working properly. And for a little while, I could engage one side and not the other. So I had to learn how to do it at the same time. You can practice engaging it whenever you are going to crouch down or you're doing other exercises. Make sure that you engage that. Also, if you're reaching up into the cupboard to get something or you're putting dishes away or you're picking up a box, make sure that you've got that gentle engagement there. And like we always say, we want to, right, when we're lifting things, you lift with our legs, not our back, but also we want to engage the core as well. And that is one way that you can really engage your core muscles is by making sure that that transverse abdominis is engaged. So the second thing that I want to mention has to do also with the hips, but it's how we try to turn the bones within the joints in the hips to turn the knees out. You've probably often heard Kelly or myself talking about this in class that when you get into your horse stance, you want to push your knees out. And sometimes we can have pain in the knees because the tendons around the knees and the fascia is very tight. But we want to make sure that that rotation is actually coming from the hips and not just the knee joint. It's easier to see if I'm turning my foot out, I can feel in my hip, for example, see if I can move closer, that it's coming from the joint, or if I'm turning my foot in or out. If we do that, we can feel that we're turning it in the joint. However, when we're in a horse stance and our feet are facing forward and our knees are bent, that's a little bit more difficult to do. So when our knees are bent, what we want to do is that rotation that we feel when we're doing this, you want to do that. It's going to be a very slight movement, and you want to do that, and that's how you're pushing the knees out. You see, you can't really tell that I've done anything. So this is when I'm not doing it, and this is when I'm pushing the knees out. This is a very basic horse stance. My pelvis is tucked under. My feet are forward. My knees are forward. So I'm not in a very deep horse stance. And if I move my feet out a little bit more, then I can do it as well. But you see, so there's forward and then I'm turning. But you want to turn here in the joint. So I want the joint to be moving the ball and socket joint to be moving, to be rotating when you're pushing your knees up. So that movement in the hips is going to be a very small movement because we're probably tight, or if we've never done that before and we're not used to doing that. It's easier to do bigger movements, like when I turn my foot in and out, than it is to do it with your feet standing forward. So you're not going to feel a lot, but it's something that you want to work on, that the rotation is coming from the hips, not just at the knees. Number 3, when we're doing standing stake or the 8 pieces of brocade, we often lift our arms over our head. And sometimes I'll hear participants say, "Oh, I can really feel that in my shoulders, or my neck is aching, or my trapezius is aching." And that's sometimes because we're not keeping our shoulders down. And it's very common when we lift our hands over our head that our shoulders go up with it. And we want to make sure that we're keeping them down, that our scapula, that bone in the back, right, where underneath our shoulder or beside it, is we want it to come in towards the spine. We want it to be coming down this way so that our shoulders stay down. So, for example, in standing stake, when we're lifting our hands over our head, we're going from big Wu Ji. When I'm lifting my arms up, I want to keep my shoulders down. So if you notice, they haven't gone up this way. They stay just down where they are. And that way I'm engaging all the muscles properly. When I breathe, I can relax into it, and I'm relaxing into my bones. Another example is in the first movement of the 8 pieces of brocade when we're breathing in. So when you're lifting up, you're keeping your shoulders down, turning the hands over, and you're exhaling, pushing away from you, keeping your shoulders down, keeping them down until your hands are over your head. So you always want to make sure that you're keeping your shoulders down. You can practice this looking at a mirror, or because we're on camera, you can take a quick look at yourself on the camera and try to make sure that your arms, that your shoulders are not sneaking up towards your ears, because the more they sneak up here, you're going to get fatigued there. And we don't want that to happen. It's not a very fun feeling to have. So those are the 3 things that I wanted to share with everyone. And I hope that that helps you with your practice, if you're doing it at home or when you're joining us in class. So stay tuned for more good stuff. We do have a training group on Facebook where we've already put in some videos, and we hope that we will see you. If you have any questions, then please let us know.